Welcome to another episode of One on One. Today we are here with Steve Flawith. So Steve, you are the founder of one of UAE's favorite burger joints,
Okay,
Pickle,
good.
which falls under your F&B brand, Yolk Brands, with some new additions. Everybody knows Pickle, but I would like to think this episode is going to give them a better understanding of you, the man behind the brand. So I'd like to start this interview with asking you who you are. I kind of want to know what you were like as a kid. What did you do? Where did you grow up?
Oh, so we're going in.
Yes.
We're going in deep.
We're going in
straight
deep.
away with this. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. As a child, I tell you what. I can tell you about my first business I ever had, which was actually my most successful business I ever had.
Okay.
At the age of 7. So I grew up in Dorset in the south coast of the UK, and a lovely area called Christchurch. And one day my grandma came down to visit. So we went out to the forest and we picked up some small plants from the forest. And we went to the shop and we got some lemons and we got some sugar. And grandma's funding this whole business
Naturally.
venture of mine, you know.
It's a good investor.
So we set up a little stand in the front of my mum's house. And I sat out there for about 20 minutes and I had some lemonade and I had some plants there and I got bored. And so I got grandma and I asked grandma to go out there and sit there. So grandma did fantastic. She sold about $12 worth of plants and lemonade. But I guess that was my first venture, right? Because my cost of goods was fantastic. It was 0% because grandma funded the whole thing. And she didn't want any kind of rate of return on this. There was no demands or expectations from grandma either. The plants were provided as well. And then employment with grandma sitting there was also free. So
I can't imagine why you would leave that.
just an array of grandmas sitting in driveways selling lemonade and plants.
On your behalf?
On my
Wow,
behalf
she
across
funded
the
the whole
country.
thing. Where do you find an investor like this? It's almost unheard of.
She was fantastic, yeah. So no, that was, I guess that was how it started. That was where the first kind of flair for hustling and having a little venture started from.
Right. What about your love for the food and beverage industry? Where does that come from?
Rocked into a restaurant with my skateboard in tow, my long hair and my piercings, and asked for a job in the first restaurant I walked into.
Which was?
It was called Brookley's.
Okay.
And it was kind of met with aggression from the maitre d' at the time, but they needed a pot wash. So I started washing pots. And it was the first time I'd seen that kind of hustle in that fast-paced environment. And I was really blessed with my mum growing up because she always taught me the fundamentals of cooking. She always wanted me to survive wherever I was in the world. She's like, you should be able to open the fridge and be able to make a meal for yourself. This is what I want to give you in life. And she did. So I knew some basics. So after about 3 weeks of washing pots and, you know, just raw in the hands, the exec chef turned around to me, Gareth, and he said, he's like, you want to spend the rest of your life as a pot wash, or you want to get involved because you're always asking questions. You know what this is, you know what this is. Do you want to be a chef? I'm like, absolutely, I want to be a chef.
How did you know that?
I didn't. At the time, I didn't.
Okay.
But it sounded a lot better
Then pot wash.
wearing those pristine whites. You know? They looked cool, man. The Draper and pristine whites, these guys were cool. And in service, they were hustling, and they were communicating, and they were creating incredible food. And I'm just like scrubbing the pots, dancing around. So the next day I came in, and I had my whites on, and I felt on top of the world. So that's how the F&B side started, and that was around 2020. I'm 37 now, so that was around 20 years ago. I started from the bottom. Literally, it couldn't get lower than that. And I loved it. I loved the buzz.
You mentioned you had a problem with, being told what to do when you were younger. It could be teenage rebellion, it could be a lot of things, the educational system. But when you went into that environment, how did you overcome that? Or what was it about that environment that taught you the discipline that you needed?
That's a good question. I think as I was getting paid for it was one, is the reward was there, the reward was definitely there. And I needed it, and I think I knew that I needed it. I've always been fairly good with feedback and criticism in that way. And one of the things my chef said to me early on was, don't tell him what to do, ask him what he thinks you should do.
I touch on this quite a lot when we talk about F&B entrepreneurs, because the restaurant business back in the day, like you said, used to be the hardest business to get into. People would almost try to tell you to avoid it altogether. It's a different environment now, perhaps maybe in this region. But what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about getting into the restaurant business today?
I think number one is it's kind of those age-old ones, right? That everyone thinks it's easy. Everyone thinks they can cook. Everyone thinks they can build. And those that don't think that maybe have the money that they can go out and pay someone else to do that, but not have the passion and the care behind it. The simple truth is when I started my own restaurant here, Pickle, in JLT in 2019, it started in 2018, a year before that. And I had to make it work.
Why?
Because if I didn't, then I was $500,000 in debt.
Okay, that's a good reason to.
And my landlord, and that was just up front, my landlord was ultimately the government. And I signed a 5-year lease.
Oof.
So I had two options. I had to make it work. I'm going to spend the rest of my life paying off that, finding another job, going back to being told what to do, which we know I wasn't great at. And that was all the incentive I needed at that point, was to make it work.
Speaking of Pickle, can we go back to the moment in which Pickle was conceived? Tell me, why did you think of a burger restaurant first? Where did it come from? Is it something that you thought you always wanted to do, you want to try? Did you know it would be the best bet to go because you had rent to pay, right? So at the time, I'm assuming we need the best option on the table. So tell me about Pickle.
Pickle originally was going to be a kind of Japanese yakitori izakaya.
Really?
Yeah, but then too high risk, right? And it was like, okay, cool, we want to do something, but that was too high risk. And it was going to be cool and funky, and the concept was there after a trip to Hong Kong. And it wasn't called Pickle, by the way. This was just the initial idea to open a restaurant. And concrete tables, you can rock in with your hat, not be judged, just order some yakitoris and stuff. All right, cool, that was going to cost a couple of $1 million to open, very high risk, and very saturated market. So it's like, okay, cool, let's look at the cuisine types in the market. And it was like, okay, right, Asian food saturated, Indian food saturated, fine dining saturated, cafes, coffee shops saturated, everything is saturated in the market. And it's like, okay, burgers as well saturated, but hang about. You have some solid burgers, but no one's doing really good fried chicken. No one's doing fresh. It's all frozen, bought in, pre-made, from suppliers, from manufacturers. All right, is there an option here to do a really fresh, incredible 10 dirham burger? Absolutely not, that was a disaster. So then it was like, cool, how do we create fresh fast food? You know, you see all these shows and stuff, and it's like, Man vs. Food in America, and they're like, oh yeah, we grind our beef, we do this with the chicken. It's like, cool, we're not doing that here. We're shipping it all in. Pre-made, frozen, pre-battered, serving it out. So how can we create fresh fast food, which is probably undercutting the competitors by say 20% as a new brand in the market, but how can I grind the beef myself to our recipe and spec? We smash it and cook it to order. How can I get the best chicken there is? And we brine it and we look after it and we truly love it. And we cook that to order. All right, and we need a vegetarian option. I don't just want to put a mushroom in a bun because that seems like a bit of a cop-out to me.
Yes.
All right, how can we innovate this? Impossible Foods, they're looking pretty cool at the moment. So then we brought Impossible into the region. I think we were the 4th or 5th or 6th country they launched with globally. So then we had a trifecta of a menu.
Tell me why you called your brand Pickle.
The kind of simple one is that a burger's not a burger without a pickle.
What do you attribute the success of the brand? Because obviously when you created this, you were hoping for the best, but you didn't know what the outcome would be. And now that you're here and it has done so well in the market, in the region, and you have international expansion plans, what do you attribute? What do you think is the secret to the source of this?
I think the simple truth is it is the people, and it's always been the people. This is number one. From there, it's been product, brand, and just a absolute relentless pursuit in perfection in everything we do. But it always goes back to the people, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that deliver our product.
Because this is your company. So of course you've built a business that you want to be in, but you've gone and built a business that your employees also want to be in. And you've turned these employees into stakeholders.
Exactly that. And it is their business. You know, as much as this is my company, I'm founder, CEO and owner of this company, I also see a high level of responsibility that today we've got 400 odd people in the company. But to me, that's not 400, that's actually 3,000. Because that's 3,000 people from the families that rely on this company for their hospital bills, for their rent, for their weddings and birthdays, good times, bad times, all of the times. So as much as, yeah, this is my company, fantastic, but I also have due care to them. I owe them to make the right decisions and to grow it in the right way and to work hard and hustle to make sure that we can provide for their families and grow everyone across the board every day.
That must be a lot of pressure as well.
No.
Yeah, taking it easy.
No, it's just, I don't believe in stress.
Okay.
I know that's mad, people find that crazy.
Yeah, that's a very big statement. I want to dig so much into that.
I honestly don't believe in stress. I get wound up sometimes and frustrated, but very rarely would I use the word stress, because I don't feel you can necessarily quantify stress. Whereas if your mindset is pressure, it becomes a to-do list and problem solving. So if there is a situation, a problem, then okay, cool. Why am I going to get wound up about it? Let's solve this, figure this out.
Yeah.
Let's get creative on this, you know?
I mean,
and then we're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I agree with you on the notion of operating constantly from a high pressure environment is not healthy.
No.
And we've gotten so used to operating from that point of view that now we think we just can operate in really high pressured situations. Meanwhile, we're just really stressed out and freaked out. But I've never heard someone so confidently and blankly say they just don't believe in stress.
No, absolutely not. And I tell the team this, because it's, when your to-do list becomes too much, all right, cool, what are you going to do? Freak out about it? No, just turn it that way, change your perception. It's done. And then just tick, 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 tick.
Is there something you do to maintain this level of stress-free environment for yourself?
I think discipline, a lot of discipline. It all comes down to self-discipline and practicing what you preach. I start my day off with coffee, to-do list. This is it. I don't open up laptops and phones and start cracking on. It is like, cool, let's just chill, look out the window, right? Think, like decompress and just get all of this unquantifiable mess in my head. Let's get this onto a sheet and then figure this out. All right, let's start. Number one. Follow up with Simon about this interview we're doing today.
So I'm going to tell you what I see, and then obviously you're going to tell me how it actually went. So you have Pickle, it's successful, you open up Yolk Brands so that you can have an umbrella for all the other brands that you've created, like Bonbird, Southpaw, 1762. Now tell me how the real story went with Yolk Brands.
Our business plan for Pickle from day one was a disaster. In a good sense. Half the revenue, double the expenses, still works great, let's figure this out. And we're like, cool, we'll do one, and then after year one, we'll build the second Pickle from cash flow. And then after year 3, we'll build the third Pickle, and so on there until we have 5 or 6. And then in 7 years, we'll franchise. The first day we opened Pickle, I did about 1,200 dirhams. friends and family coming in to support, which was
Naturally.
fantastic. The next day I did about 30 dirhams, and the fear started to set in. Day 3 wasn't much different, day 4 wasn't much different, and then it just boomed. The people that were trying it were talking about the product and how good it was. So I was like, all right, cool, let's look at Bombird. So we started developing Bombird. Originally it was called Wedge. Terrible name, awful
Wedge.
branding. Yes, we went back straight to the beginning. So then we came up with Bombird. The alliteration was really cool, and then the interiors came in, and we brought Bombird to the market in 2023, early 2023. So it's been a year now, coming up to a year. And then there was looking for opportunities. So we're like, okay, cool. We're good at this like mid-market, fast casual QSR. What else? We got the burgers. We got the fried chicken. But we want to be rounded, so we're resilient to economic downturns, COVID, whatever it is. Okay, cool. We need like tacos in. We need coffee in. We're going to need pizza at some point. We're going to need healthy eating. That'd be pretty cool. And then the weirdest opportunity came forward that 1762 was up on the market. And that was crazy for me because I was the strategy director for 1762 when I moved here. And I worked on expanding that company across the UAE. And 1762 was like, whoa, man, like I love that company. I helped build that company. I helped build most of the locations. The reason I got Pickle and JLT is because I built the 1762 and JLT and I knew the landlord so well. So I know how to care for it. I know how to bring it back to life. And it's this really cool UAE legacy brand that's been in the market for 14 years. Not many people have as a brand here for 14 years.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, this fits, this is cool, I know the team still. So then we went into the bidding of 1762 and we won on the bids. Well, let's look at that mid-market of coffee here, because there is a great coffee scene here, you know?
Yes, there is, yeah.
But for me, coffee is about accessibility. I know I can get that coffee at that time and they're going to be open at 6 a.m. and it's going to be reliable and it's going to be solid coffee. But I don't want rubbish coffee. So then Southpaw came to life and that kind of completed the set of Yolk Brands as that brand incubator that we can grow, we can take them to a point.
You don't seem like somebody who overthinks to me.
No.
You don't, yeah.
No.
So you have a feeling, I'm guessing, that kind of, I don't want to be hippie-ish, but leads you sort of in your decision making throughout the day.
Yeah, and you know, I think there's kind of 3 ways you can think and you can look at anything, and there should be a balance in them. You have your head, you have your heart, and you have your gut. So your head is the logic, it's the analysis, it's the feasibilities. Your heart sometimes can be the empathy behind it, but that gut feeling also has a balance. And I don't think it's always necessarily right to make a decision with one of those. You know, you shouldn't just be steering with pure gut, because that's going to be a railroad,
either way,
you know.
yeah.
But I think when you find a balance in that, as with everything, then you can move it forward. But no, overthinking, not really, because I think overthinking can lead to being some of the worst conversations you'll have in your life. Because I genuinely believe that the worst conversation you have is the one you have with yourself.
Because you're hard on yourself, right?
You're never going to win.
Yeah.
You're never going to win, especially if you're going into a situation and your landlord's being annoying. You're like, right, this guy, we're going to have this out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and you're winding yourself up on the way there. And you get in, he's like, hey man,
What's up?
you want a coffee? By the way, the rent relief, gone through, don't worry about it. And you're like,
But you've just spent like 2 hours.
oh yeah, you're battered. So I try not to have conversations, and I think being mindful of that fact when you start getting into it, you're like, this isn't helping anyone, is it?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
get out of this, let's stop this, right?
Yeah.
And let's go have a chat, he's a good guy.
Back to the conversation we were having about leadership and what it takes to not only build but stay in this F&B landscape, which is not an easy thing to do. Do you think that there's a special something that somebody needs to have to be successful, or is it a calculated method to success in this field?
In hospitality, it's a blank canvas, right? And it can be what you want it to be at the end of the day. You can paint your own canvas. For me, I tend to lead from the front, and I'm very empathetic and very relentless. We don't accept mediocrity. in anything we do, and we have that drive towards greatness in brand, in product, in team, in training, in every single aspect. But where that canvas comes in is people can create as they want to create.
So I don't just want to ask you what would be the best advice you would give to a young, budding F&B entrepreneur who wants to sort of follow in your footsteps. I'd rather rephrase the question and ask you if you could be today what that person needs, which is somebody that you might have needed when you were starting out. What advice would you give them?
If I was a mentor to someone, it's harder than you ever think. And no words of advice that anyone can ever give you is going to get that point across. You need to be thick-skinned. You need to hustle. You need to apply yourself. And you need to roll with the punches. Because it is going to be brutal, it's going to be savage. There's no strong people out there that have had an easy life. That's for sure. So just roll with those punches.
I really love that. I'm going to ask you to repeat that. There's no strong people
That have had an easy life.
They've just, okay.
No. And I think that's the brutal truth. Everyone says, I'm going to start a restaurant. And by the way, starting Pickle, everyone told me I was going to fail. I don't like being told what to do. I am not failing.
So you showed them.
I am not failing. I showed all those people. So, but no, it's, I've worked hospitality my whole life, more than half my life, just in hospitality. And I know it's hard, but you can't tell anyone how hard it is when you're out there on your own.
I ask a lot of people that question in the industry when I sit down and do these interviews, and I think that was possibly one of the most honest advice that I've heard in a while, which is a breath of fresh air. I think people really need to understand what they're getting themselves into, and also coming in with that mindset of this is going to be hard, it is going to be a lot of hard work, but we can do hard things if we try.
Yeah, it's character building.
I think it's a good way to look at it.
Bags of character.
I'm sure you do. So, Steve, this next question I was a little bit coached into. So, Simon said, see what I did there?
Simon said,
Yeah. That, he's just had enough work. He's so busy throughout the day with these 4 brands that you've given him. And he's not really looking to fill up his plate. But I thought I'd ask you instead about expansion plans.
We see Yolk Brands as our incubator. So we will grow, we will acquire, we will then offload that brand further on down the line, and then we'll look to acquire or create, because we are brand creators, another brand. But 4 is the cap for the team, where we want to keep it today.
Why?
Never say never. Just balances quite nicely. We have a very good team in place. The structure's there. I don't want to overwork people, because then you do start to accept mediocrity. I want to keep a nice plateau and company culture in place. And 4's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This
sure.
takes everything we have.
Yeah.
Expansion plans in general at the moment, Pickle is leading the way as the oldest brand that we have under our group. So we're currently across the UAE, everywhere. We have 2 locations in Bahrain, with more to open. Qatar is opening after Eid, our first location, and we've now signed territories across Egypt, Kuwait and KSA. Middle East is pretty much done for us for Pickle, and Pickle's setting up that pipeline for future brands to follow.
I see that.
Bonbird, we absolutely love Bonbird. We're so happy with it and its performance. We currently have 3 locations in UAE. We have another 6 locations opening this year for Bonbird, and we signed a franchise deal with Pakistan for 14 sites, which is really, really cool. It's a great market as well. And Bonbird are in talks across the region as well, and in Asia as well. We're in talks in Malaysia as well. 1762, we've been restructuring, cleaning and bringing it back to life. We're currently refitting some of the stores as they're 14 years, 10 years, 8 years old, for a kind of big relaunch in a month or so. And Southpaw is our new baby. And we, as with everything we do, Pickle took a year to develop and launch, Bonbird took a year to develop and launch, 76 took a year to restructure and bring back and launch again. And Southpaw, our newest baby, is took us a year to perfect and to launch, but then we decided to launch with 3 locations in the same week. So we got another 15 Southpaws on the cards for this week, so we can kind of bring that epic specialty coffee to every neighborhood as well.
I want to know from you now, what is your great next adventure, but yours? Not Yolk Brands, not Pickle, nothing to do with F&B. Steve's next great adventure.
My next adventure, outside of work, I think the last 6 years have definitely taken their toll on me. From the pure amount of work, that we have this incredible team now and we're settled, and they're truly empowered and they're leading their own business lines forward, that I'm now working on some time for myself.
As you should.
As I should, right? So now my next epic adventure is really in myself and getting back to being able to have time to play tennis, to go spearfishing and diving, you know, to travel more and still keep the company and that energy running. But I think the next adventure is going back into me.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a nice one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's because you can lose yourself in starting your own business. You can truly lose yourself.
Steve, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time, sitting down with us in this interview and allowing us to get to know you so much better.
My pleasure.
We love your brands. We're not the only ones. A lot of the UAE, a lot of the Middle East, you know, people love it. So it was good to get to know the man behind the brand.
Thank you so much.
I'm not done with you just
Oh,
yet,
okay, we're
though.
staying. All right,
We're staying. So we have this really cool segment on this show where we ask our guests this or that questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've prepared a couple questions for you. I'm gonna shout them out, and then you're gonna just tell me.
You're gonna shout them?
I'm gonna shout them.
Like
Is that okay?
aggressively.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it pretty aggressive. I'm just kidding.
All right, let's go for it.
You're gonna just tell me which one resonates the best, the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay, let's go.
Ready? Are you sure you're ready?
Ready? Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Chocolate cake or Cornish pie?
Cornish pie.
Food truck or pop-up restaurant?
Ooh, pop up.
Order in or eat out?
Eat out.
Unicorn bubblegum milkshake or soda?
What is a unicorn bubblegum milkshake?
I don't know, but it sounds nice.
I'm gonna go for that.
I did too. Okay, so now this next one is specifically for you and you'll see why. So I'm really hoping you get this one right and I think you are. You ready?
Go on, go.
Bone-in wings
Ooh.
or boneless wings?
Oh, bone-in wings.
Nice.
Always bone-in wings.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Always bone-in.
I know.
My pleasure.